Hello and welcome to ET Markets Crypto TV presented by CoinSwitch Kuber. I'm Miloni Bhatt. Today, our focus, crime in decentralized finance. Why are they rising and how can you protect yourself? But first of all, what is decentralized finance? DeFi or decentralized finance is an umbrella term for all sorts of financial services on public blockchains, primarily the Ethereum blockchain. Now, whatever services your bank provides, like interest on funds, your ability to borrow, lend, buy insurance, trade assets, all of that can be done through DeFi on a blockchain. Now, it requires no paperwork or an intervening third party. But as with crypto in general, DeFi is global. It's peer-to-peer, meaning you can directly transact between two people and it's not routed through a whole centralized system. It's pseudonymous, it's open to all. Now, you'd say all of this is a good thing, right? But crimes in DeFi are on the rise. Now, according to a new report by Elliptic, a firm that tracks movements of funds on digital ledgers that underpin cryptocurrencies, that highlighted that DeFi users and investors have suffered more than $10 billion in losses due to theft and fraud in 2021. So the question really is DeFi's strength also its weakness? To delve into this, we have with us Kanishk Gaur. Kanishk is the founder of the think tank India Future Foundation, where he leads initiatives to drive change on public policies relating to digital, technology, and cybersecurity. He's pursuing a doctorate in cybersecurity from the Indian Institute of Management, Lucknow. He is the recipient of the Shivning Commonwealth Fellowship in 2018 for his work in cybersecurity. Kanishk, thanks very much for your time today.
Thank you, Miloni, for having me here.
Kanishk, let's begin. One of the main criticisms that cryptocurrency face is that security lapses and that it abets criminal activity. Decentralized finance has become one such space. Now, according to a report by Elliptic, and they call it D-crime, losses reached about over $10 billion in 2021. Now, what are the gap areas where these losses are taking place?
So I think the biggest loss area is identifying which are real cryptocurrencies, which are real exchanges versus the fraud ones. Now, due to lack of guidelines in India, you don't have a list of empaneled crypto exchanges, list of cryptocurrencies which are allowed. So today, the consumers don't know when they get a link, whether this link has come from a verified source or it is a fraudulent activity which is being done. Now, this leads to a lot of people investing in schemes which are led by fraudsters or which are led by third parties which are not even in this country. So erstwhile, we used to see a lot of Nigerian frauds which used to impact people through lottery scams. Now, they have matured and today moved to crypto. And they create a lot of these groups and add people on WhatsApp or other messaging platform and then lure them for investing in cryptocurrencies but are actually fraud.
So, what makes DeFi so vulnerable to attacks?
See, what it makes so vulnerable is that the entire crypto mechanism, it works on the principle of blockchain, right? When it comes to internet, people don't do their homework to find out which are verified sources and they just invest. So it's lack of information and then lack of government guidelines, particularly in this space. So if somebody is defrauding customers by creating a new cryptocurrency or launching a new crypto exchange, apart from the ads which you see on television and the news which you have on the internet, there is no way to verify whether this information is correct or not. So a lot of times people click on links which are fraudulent. This is one source. So the lack of regulation, the lack of guidelines, and a lot of lack of proper information which could come from government is one of the key issues which we face today in India.
But we are in a regulatory black hole, and this is going to persist until regulations come. So then what does one do if one is an investor in crypto and through a DeFi?
So I think the first and foremost thing we should do is that if you see information about investing in cryptocurrencies or crypto exchange, go and check whether those companies are for real or for fake. That's the first thing that you need to do.
And how does one check that?
You can go and check those companies whether they are in India. So if there is Wazir You have got CoinDX. They have their offices in India, right? You can see that their profiles of their people is public. Their profile of their founders is on LinkedIn. The profile of their founders is on other social media channels. They have a number, a helpline, a customer care, where if you have any issues, you can contact. A lot of these crypto companies today have launched customer helplines for reporting frauds. When you look at some of the other fraudulent websites, they won't have that channel set up in India. They won't have even an office set up in India. So a lot of people, when they invest in cryptocurrencies or crypto exchanges, you will find them that their offices also don't exist physically in India. They would be based out of some remote country, and they would have no information to give. They would just have a number. So when you're investing in a cryptocurrency, go and call up the exchange. Also try and verify through local channels. Word of mouth really helps. You will look at a lot of government guidelines coming out today that these are companies which have applied for crypto exchanges. You can look at that information as well. So that'll come in handy. And we also see a lot of ads in newspapers. So you'll see at least top crypto exchanging sharing best practices. There are 5 or 6. You can leverage them. And when it comes to cryptocurrencies, there are 5 or 6 cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, Ethereum. You can try and investing in them, but a lot of times people create their own cryptocurrencies, and it's very difficult to verify whether those currencies are legitimate or are just fraudulent schemes which are running. So my view is invest in the ones which are popular, the ones which have offices in India, the ones who have a decent customer care mechanism, and with people whom you can talk. That's there. If I was to invest in a cryptocurrency, I would try and visit a office, because I'm going to invest in multiple lakhs of rupees. I'm going to try and maybe visit their office once, talk to their executive. If an in-person meeting is possible, I would love to do that. So a physical touch point really helps when it comes to investing your money.
Once monies are stolen from a DeFi protocol, is there any way that you can recover your coins or tokens?
That's really difficult, because once the money is in the wallet, it moves. All the entire channel is encrypted and moves through the dark web. Now, for tracing money through dark web, it's really difficult. Sometime back, we had money lost from somebody's wallet in India, and that money was traced to a terrorist group which was based in Palestine. Now, recovering that money and getting that money back has a very minimal chance. There have been cases where coins have been recovered, but those are very less. So a lot of times this movement happens so quickly, it's very difficult to trace that path. And this is the beauty of dark web, the beauty of encryption, that finding out the source, the actual person who has the currency, is very difficult, because you don't know who's there, because there are multiple browsers which basically protect the identity of the people with whom you are trading, or with whom you are exchanging, or with whom you are doing the buying and the selling. So the buyer and the seller are actually hiding their identity on dark web. So it's difficult, but investigations have found out that they have been able to trace money, but those cases are really less.
Could DeFi be the next focus of regulations by governments across the world? There is the Financial Actions Task Force, the Global Anti-Money Laundering Watchdog. It only covers centralized systems, or cryptocurrency exchanges, but it does not cover DeFi platforms. What are the security measures that can be taken?
So I think there have to be measures where countries collaborate. So if you've got a currency which is originating from, say, United States, and that currency is becoming popular in India, then the governments will have to sign up treaties in terms of allowing their people to know about it, learn about it, and also held that company liable and accountable. Let's take the example of Facebook. Facebook launched its own cryptocurrency, right? And Facebook's cryptocurrency is very popular in the US. Now, if people in India are investing in cryptocurrency, which Facebook launched, and they are also using it in India, then what is the liability of a platform like Facebook in India for that kind of cryptocurrency? And if frauds happen, what is the redressal mechanism? What is the kind of treaty which exists between India and United States of America for ensuring that it is not used for national activities, or for terrorists, or for money laundering? Those kinds of mechanisms have to be built in. And in case of frauds, when they happen, how can people contact the Facebook team in India? How can they contact the Facebook team, maybe based in the Silicon Valley? Those mechanisms have to be drawn in. And we have seen that some of the countries like Singapore, UK, France, Australia, and India are trying to work on some of these aspects. But for that to happen, they need to first come out with their own regulations around cryptocurrencies, which is very much essential today, right? If you look at today, the budget, they are saying all the income that you get from cryptocurrencies, you have to pay 30% tax. You're taxing it, but you have not come out with a regulation to legitimize who are the players who you would want to operate, what kind of mechanisms they need to follow, what are some of the standard operating procedures they need to follow if they need to operate. Just taxing people because they're investing, I think that doesn't solve the purpose.
Yes, there's no investor protection. There is taxation without investor protection.
Yes. If you look at stock markets, people who invest in stock markets, you've got SEBI, right? So SEBI is going to protect your interest from people who are trying to fraud you. Similarly, you need a market regulator for cryptocurrencies, right? So when people invest in derivatives, in futures, they have regulatory bodies who go after companies who are doing scams. But when it comes to cryptocurrencies, there is no regulator, at least in this country.
So, when it comes to cybersecurity, how is DeFi or decentralized finance space different from, say, cybersecurity as we know it in the Web 2.0?
All right. So in Web 2.0, what happens is you're accessing a web application or a mobile application, which is built on cloud, social media, use data science and analytics. So you have straightforward tools where you can go to an application and do a security audit or an assessment and find out if that has loopholes, it has threats, and then you can tell the organizations to fix it. But when it comes to Web 3.0 technology, specifically blockchain, there is no single user. It is a system of multiple computers which are connected, and they have a mechanism of handshake on certain principles where they have agreed. So actually, it's not a single source, but it is a group of trusted ledgers which are there. So that lays a different mechanism. So you can't actually go to a single computer. You have to look at the principle on which they are deciding to transact. So you have to look at the distributed ledger. You have to look at the entire blockchain mechanisms. Now, this is an advanced area, and there are very few companies or few cybersecurity experts who can actually audit or assess this. So when we look at certain countries where companies are going and launching their own cryptocurrencies, or high net worth individuals are launching their own cryptocurrencies, they would want the blockchain mechanism to be tested in that scenario, so that their systems, their computer systems are secure. They have enough best practices built in. That's been done, and we have seen that happening in specific countries. So testing that plays a very important role, and also having expertise around it plays an important role. So security testing of a distributed ledger is very different versus testing a web application or a mobile application.
And we're still building our knowledge in all of these things. We don't have the brain trust right now, are you saying, to do it?
I don't think so. So if you go to India, Ministry of Electronics today has a list of 40 impaneled cybersecurity consultants. It has the largest Big Four consulting houses. It has companies like Wipro, Tata, Tech Mahindra. Now, all of them can audit your systems which work on Web 2.0 technologies. But when it comes to Web 3.0, looking at blockchain, cryptocurrencies, the principles of distributed computing, you don't have a list of impaneled cybersecurity consultants who can actually carry out these assessments. So that's a lacuna which is there currently. So you will also have to come up with a list of companies who have the capability, and then test them, and then give them that certificate that they are allowed to do testing of Web 3.0 technologies.
That's a huge gap, isn't it?
It is a huge gap today.
Since DeFi, DApps, they rely on smart contracts, and their aim is to eliminate third-party control of funds. This puts a lot of, trust in the code and the design of the protocol. What are some of the external measures that platforms can take to bolster security?
So
especially because you raised the point that we don't have enough people who can actually look at what are the whether the security mechanisms are in place or not.
So, some of the important aspects which are there is that today most of these crypto exchange platforms are using mobile applications. Now, when you launch these mobile applications, they would be downloaded by a lot of consumers. So, one, you have to test the source code of these mobile applications so that they are secure by design. They themselves don't have specific threats, they don't have specific vulnerabilities which can lead to exposure of consumer to a third party or to a fraud. So that's one aspect. You can look at the source code. The other is the built-in mechanism, the way these applications have been designed. The way a WazirX or a CoinDX has been designed, look at their security architecture so that you have security and privacy taken care. That's the second part. The third part is specifically looking at suppliers. So it's not just a crypto exchange, it is the entire ecosystem partners, right, who would be working back with them. So how do you secure your supply chain mechanism? Look at your third party, fourth party suppliers, looking at their security best practices, what they are following, plays a very, very important role. And the element of encryption, masking of data. When you have when you have data of a consumer and it is being shared, how do you ensure that critical information is encrypted and not leaked to third party? So those are aspects which are there. So doing specific ethical hacking activities, which are called as red teaming, doing assessment, which are called as vulnerability assessment scanning, and also doing some amount of threat intelligence. So what threat intelligence means is that you try and get as much information about a platform as you can from social media, from different parts of the internet, including the dark web and the deep web, where a lot of hackers originate, and try and find out if information about that particular business is leaked or not, or their source code is not leaked on platforms like GitHub. So these are certain best practices which could be followed, and also carrying out a regular security audit by a third party plays a very, very important role.
In a decentralized system, how can a user trust the creator of a token? I mean, do you continue to rely on exchanges to filter out the bad actors? And to what extent are exchanges even able to do this? And if they do this, then does it take away from the whole idea of decentralization of cryptocurrency?
It's the same thing. So when you talk about stocks, you've got platforms which sell commodities, exchange. So if you look at a Zerodha is trying to help you invest in stock market, or you've got an application like Grow, which is also helping you invest in stock market. So a crypto exchange platform is no different than them. It is only enabling consumers to invest in cryptocurrencies. It does not go against the principle of distributed ledger. It only allows sale of transactions, and what they have to allow is that the sale of transaction happens through a secure channel. Whereas the cryptocurrencies securing its own mechanism is completely different. And a lot of cryptocurrency companies today take enough security assessments and do enough due diligence to ensure that the principles on which they have designed the entire cryptocurrency, the blockchain principles, are secure by design. So it is basically, third parties taking care of their own security and cryptocurrencies being secured through the principles on which they have been developed.
Is there a scalability challenge for DeFi? With if you scale it higher, then you're less secure.
I think it's not about capability challenge. It's more about proof testing. So when you move from a level Web 2.0 to Web 3.0, and you also are not only doing cryptocurrencies, you're also getting into NFTs. It's important that you have some of these aspects such as privacy, security taken care by design, and you have partners. It's having a nice ecosystem partner in place to ensure that you have consumers' trust built in, and you have done the right amount of processes, the right amount of certifications, and the right amount of assessments. That plays a very, very important role. As you go up a higher altitude, things are going to get tough. But when it comes to innovation, that this is what it is all about. You have to break the market. You have to create new blue oceans for people to invest and expand the market.
Kanishk, to me, it seems like how do you really apply regulatory standards designed for, centralized systems, intermediaries, uh, to a system where there's no centralization?
See, for a system which is not centralized, you really can't design a system. You can only create market forces, market dynamics on which it is going to operate. So tomorrow, if I, as a consumer, invest in a cryptocurrency and you are asking me to pay 30% tax, it's government's duty to also ensure that if I lose my money, the platform through which I lose my money has some amount of skin in the game. That has to be there, right? And secondly, if government is creating those norms, it also has to bring out certain standard operating procedures for these companies to follow, which could be having a registered office in India, having a representative in India, and having considerable amount of strength, so that they showcase that they are here to do business and they are not having their servers set up somewhere in a remote part of the globe and they are just here to make money. So that plays a very important role. You really can't monitor or control a distributed ledger, but when people put in money, there are mechanisms. When you move your money from your bank to your crypto wallet, there are mechanisms through which you can define that, okay, this is the amount which has got invested, these are the people, so you at least know a person is putting in. So today, if you say want to invest in futures or gold bonds, there is a specific link on your bank, whichever bank you're using. So similarly for cryptocurrencies, there'll be a link. So you'll be able to classify that this is investment which you have made in cryptocurrency or an NFT. So at least now there's a mechanism which the government has created, and this is being classified. But creating specific guidelines around those investments, having specific laws around those investments, and also ensuring that this money does not get used in any kind of fraud or any kind of anti-national activities is an aspect which government will have to take care of. They can't just say, okay, you are a crypto exchange, you are getting people's money invested. It is your job, it is government job to ensure, to track, and to ensure that that money is being used for the right purpose. So I think there is also capability development which needs to be done at the government's end. If they can launch the digital rupee today, they will also have to create mechanisms today for cryptocurrencies and NFTs to operate in a free market.
But the whole point, Kanishk, of this is that, it's out of the idea of centralization. The whole idea, or something that attracts people to crypto, is the whole concept of decentralization. If you call in for government control or a third party control, that idea is gone.
So you're not calling in for a government control or a third party control. It is only about your flat currency when it gets converted to a digital currency. How do you ensure that handshake is secure? This is what is required today. So today, if I convert my rupee to to a digital money using the Beam platform, how secure is the Beam platform, or how secure is a Paytm or a MobiWik or a Google Pay? Similar mechanisms have to be created for cryptocurrencies. That is what is required, right? And also ensuring that they follow specific best practices, which the government says these are 5 things, 7 things you need to take care of, which could be submitting your balance sheets, taking care of security best practices, having encryption, ensuring privacy of consumer data, not using this data for other purposes. Those are aspects which will play a role. Not looking into saying that, okay, people are putting in this amount of money in cryptocurrencies, that a government can never control. They will never be able to find out where the money is being invested, what purpose the money is being used for. That's the part which will never come out.
Now, with the idea that DeFi could be this next big thing, are we seeing a hype that's being created around it? Just as we saw the hype being created with cryptocurrencies, is it FOMO that's driving people or to platforms, to DeFi platforms? While these platforms are still in their infancy, the technology could be a little immature, especially to manage, assets of such high values.
I don't think so. It's basically a hype. If you look at some of the countries in South Asia, let's look at China and let's look at Philippines. During lockdown, Philippines, a lot of people were at home and people started creating their own NFTs. They started creating their own gigs, and that became a parallel economy. Apart from what Philippines people do on particularly from tourism or working as registered nurses for US, uh, having those NFTs and convert using that money for their own growth is something which is great. And if you look at China, that the central bank digital currency, the way they are trying to expand it and then tell the world to use it as a mechanism for exchange, specifically in the Winter Olympics, are things of future. They're also going and telling other countries to repay the debt to China using the central bank digital currency. So it means there is a future of DeFi, not only for countries, but also for people who want to create their own gigs, who want to create their own cartoons or posters. So today, if I go and create my own painting on a platform, there is a mechanism to sell it, right? And people are ready to buy it. So it's actually creating a new economy. It's a parallel economy which is creating, which could create a lot of jobs. That is something that has to be really understood. And today I see kids who are 16 or 17 years of age who are creating their own NFTs and are selling it online. So it means you're creating more employment in times of COVID, where the world literally was in lockdown and a lot of jobs were getting lost. This is a new dimension of growth which could actually power not only the Indian economy but global economy.
Kanishk, I think the main takeaway that I have from this conversation with you is that prevention is better than cure. I think the one of the ways to avoid being scammed is to ensure who exactly are you dealing with. Transact through reputable exchanges, ensure that all the channels that you go through are verified. If an offer sounds too good, it's probably too good, and you should not really get into it. Thanks so very much for your time and for your expertise today here with us.